a good idea. Go to Madam President, maybe she can have the budget for that.
Oh, I wish I had that power.
Just waiting for Councilman McLean. It relives, so I can see Patty counting.
Okay, all set? Alrighty. The Salem City Council will meet remotely on Thursday, February 24th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. to hold its regular meeting for the purpose of discussing any and all business via remote participation in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the city's website at www.salem.com. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the city's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch, listen, or provide comment, if applicable, during the meeting may do so in the following manner. Please click on the link found in the agenda, password 309796. Go to the website link found in the agenda, enter meeting webinar ID 828-4263-2156, followed by the meeting password above if directed to do so. Or telephone. Participants can dial a toll-free number at 877-853-5257 or 888-475-4499. When prompted, enter meeting webinar ID 828-4263-2156 and follow the instructions to join the meeting. For those dialing in, you may press *9 to raise your hand to speak if signed up for public testimony or to participate in the public hearing portion of the agenda. You can watch the meeting live on SATV on channel 22 and on the SATV government YouTube channel. Members of the public wishing to speak on the agenda items must follow the how to sign up for public testimony outlined on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak during hearings designated as public hearings may do so by following how to participate noted above. A regular meeting of the City Council was held remotely via Zoom on Thursday, February 24th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on February 22nd, 2022 at 10:08 a.m. This meeting is being recorded and is live on SATV. Councilors absent? None. Council President Morcillo presided. Councilor McLean moved to dispense with reading of the record of the previous meeting. Councilor Morcillo requested that everyone please rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Merkel.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public testimony, none. Hearings,
We have an order held from the last meeting from National Grid to install conduits on Norman Street.
if you are appearing in favor, please raise your hand. We have Sabita, you can go ahead.
I have not received any additional information from the persons I have emailed about your previous concerns. I do not know if you got any response back.
Okay. Is there anyone else appearing in favor? If you're appearing in favor, you can raise your hand or use *9 on your phone. Seeing none. If you are appearing in opposition, can you please raise your hand? Seeing none. Are there any members of the council with questions or comments? Councillor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, Madam President. I was able to gather some information additional to this point from the engineering team, and at this time, I would I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing by roll call vote.
Councillor Watson-Felt moves to close the public hearing by roll call vote. Under discussion? Seeing none. Madam City Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Presnowski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion to close the public hearing, we have 11 councillors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Councillor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, Madam President. As I mentioned before, I did have a chance to close the loop with the engineering team on this item, and as long as a permit is opened and approved for opening the street by the engineering team, approved by the engineering team, we could move to grant this today.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
Sorry, yes, I'd like to make the motion to grant by roll call vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watson-Felt moves that this be granted by roll call vote. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Presnowski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion to grant the installation of conduits on Norman Street, 11 councillors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Thank you very, very much, Ms. Mohidir.
Thank you.
Appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's appointment of Jamie Gamendia of 6 Rowan Street to the Salem Traffic and Parking Commission with the term to expire on February 24th, 2025.
Councillor McLean.
I move that this item be held under the rules.
Councillor McLean moves that this be held under the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor. The motion carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's appointment of Jamie Graham of 25 Roslyn Street to the Salem Historical Commission with a term to expire on April 11th, 2025.
Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this appointment be held under the rules.
Councillor Cohen moves that this be held under the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor. The motion carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's appointment of Jennifer Byronbach of 2 West Terrace to the Salem Recycling Committee. This is for informational purposes only.
Counselor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. I move this be received and filed.
Counselor Hapworth moves that this be received and filed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor, none opposed. The motion carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of the following with their terms to expire on March 1st, 2025. Rebecca English to the Historical Commission, David Pabech to the Salem and Beverly Water Supply Board, Don Reccarelli to the Conservation Commission, and Paul Duran to the Design Review Board.
Counselor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Counselor Hapworth moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to thank these folks for continuing to serve.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Counselor Cohen,
Yes.
Counselor Dominguez,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor McLean,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Prosnowski,
Yes.
Counselor Riccardi,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Counselor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion for the reappointment of the 4 board members, we have 11 counselors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. And thank you all for your continued service to the city. Further appointments and reappointments.
At the January 13th, 2022 meeting, the mayor's office included now the reappointment of Department Head Dave Kachowski of Director of Traffic and Parking with the term to expire on January 21st, 2024. He was already appointed in February of 2021 with a term to expire January 31st, 2023.
Counselor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. I move this be received and filed.
Counselor Hapworth moves that this be received and filed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor. The motion carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
The mayor's reappointment of Christopher Chigas of 80 Foster Street as a constable with a term to expire October 3rd, 2024.
Counselor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. I move this be received and filed.
Counselor Hapworth moves that this be received and filed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor, none opposed. The motion carries. Communications from the mayor.
We have an order that the sum of $250,000 is hereby appropriated and transferred from the Capital Outlay Fund to short-term CIP traffic and parking for traffic calming infrastructure, including permanent and temporary speed bumps.
Counselor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Counselor McCarthy moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Counselor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I further move for adoption by roll call vote.
Counselor McCarthy moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. There's been some ongoing work through the city's planning department, and I see that Christina from the planning department is on the call if there's any questions. I know there's been a couple of requests in my ward for traffic calming measures that the Traffic and Parking Commission and the Planning Department has been looking at. I think this is just an allocation of the money to move these projects forward. I don't have a problem if the will is to refer this to committee, but I think that the Planning Department has been doing this work, and this has been this is the funding that they'll need to implement these programs. And it's just not for speed bumps; it's for automated stop signs. Illuminated stop signs, the stop signs that have the LEDs around them, in the problem areas or in the dock areas, and some flashing speed signs. There's a whole litany of objectives they're trying to achieve. And I know it's been some ongoing work to identify these locations, and this is just the money from the CIP to allow this to happen. But I will, if I didn't explain this correctly, I'll ask for a suspension of the rules to allow Christina to address the council.
Seeing no objection.
I see Amanda's here as well.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good evening. I'm Christina Hodge. Yes, I'm in the Traffic and Parking Department under David. So this money, as Councilor McCarthy said, it goes towards a whole host of different traffic calming elements. The majority of the cost does go to speed bumps or humps and cushions. They're costly elements that we have to continuously purchase as they get deployed in different neighborhood groups. And additionally, and this was noted in the letter, we're hoping to put permanent speed humps in the North Salem neighborhood, Dunlap, Barstow, and Buffum streets. And we did get a quote from a contractor, and it did come in quite high, almost $100,000. So a good portion of this funding would go towards a permanent element, which was extremely well received from that neighborhood, and is getting a lot of just great feedback from them. So continuing this project, expanding it, there's so many requests that come through, and we're hoping to fulfill more requests in different areas within the Salem neighborhoods.
Thank you, Ms. Hodge. Do any councilors have questions? Any being none? Thank you very much for joining the meeting.
Thank you.
On Councilor McCarthy's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Presnusky,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion for the appropriation and transfer of $250,000 from Capital Outlay Fund 2000 to ST CIP Traffic and Parking, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order that the sum of $90,000 is hereby appropriated and transferred from the Capital Outlay Fund to short-term CIP planning for the development and plan for the provision of downtown Salem's future public parking infrastructure and associated development opportunities.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor McCarthy moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I further move for adoption by roll call vote.
Adoption by roll call vote under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. With us tonight, we also have Amanda from the Planning Department, and in speaking with the mayor earlier on this, it's a little, they want to get this lined up. I don't know if it's exactly time sensitive, but Amanda came on to talk about this. It's basically, it's a study to look at our existing downtown parking lots and how they could be better utilized in what the need is now in the downtown relative to parking and or development. And so they want to get a consultant on board to start some outreach and do some initial assessments to see what the potential is for some of these lots. If anyone has any questions, I move to allow Amanda to address any of those, or if someone really wants a more in-depth conversation with Amanda, we can move this to committee. But I move for suspension of the rules to allow Amanda to address the council.
Councilor Watson-Felt, did you have a question first, or do you want to wait for Amanda?
We could hear from Amanda, but I'm going to request a motion to move this to the committee on admin and finance.
Okay. Seeing no objection, we can hear from Amanda, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I actually don't have anything else to add. I think Councilor McCarthy summarized it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any councilors have any further questions? Councilor Presnusky.
Thank you, Madam President. Question is directed to Amanda. Amanda, I know back around 1997, under Mayor Harrington's administration, there was an agreement made with the Peabody Essex Museum that they were going to donate. I think the figure was about $300,000 to facilitate a second level on Church Street behind the old Almies, where now it's just an open parking lot. Do you know anything about the history of that or the progress with that, whether or not that money has been donated, whether that's incorporated into what you're working on now? I just don't know whatever happened to that initiative.
I'm not familiar with that initiative, but I'll look into that and we can report back to you at committee.
Thank you. I can provide you some information.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Dominguez.
I'd like to second Councilor Watson Farrell motion to send it to committee, if I may.
Okay, so Councilor Watson-Felt made a motion to send this to committee, seconded by Councilor Dominguez. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
Is that co-posted, I'm sorry, or was that just A&F?
Co-posted, please.
Thank you.
Co-posted? Yep, ANF. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Council Marcella, you're freezing up a little bit. Internet, are you on the, yeah.
Connection bad here.
She's back.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're freezing up.
I think I'm on the right one.
You're on the,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
Okay.
Committee, okay.
So we are on the motion to refer this to the Committee on Administration and Finance co-posted. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor. The motion carries.
We will further communication to the mayor that the sum of that to be $40,000 is hereby transferred from the Finance Department full-time salaries account to the Finance Department's contracted services account as provided below to cover payment associated with temporary contract accountant services for fiscal year 2022 due to department vacancies.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor McCarthy moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I further move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor McCarthy moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. I had a conversation with the finance director, and they are still in the process of looking for an assistant finance director. They've been in that process for almost, for the whole entire fiscal year. There is money available in the line item for full-time salaries in order to transfer over to a lot for contracted services. I mean, obviously being down an assistant finance director has put the finance department in a little bit of predicament where they've had to contract out services to keep up with the work, and also they're anticipating having to contract out some services as they move forward with the budget. So this is just these transfers come to us because they're moving from one line item to another. They can't do them themselves without asking us to do it first. So my recommendation would be for adoption by roll call vote based on the letter from the mayor and my discussion with the finance director. She'd like also some of these services have already been completed. She'd like to be able to pay the vendors when the bills come due at the end of the month.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor McCarthy's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen?
Yes.
Counselor Dominguez,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor McLean,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Prosnowski,
Yes.
Counselor Riccardi,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Counselor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion for the, let's see, what is it? For the $40,000 transferred from finance to contracted services, 11 counselors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order that the sum of $3,375 is hereby appropriated and transferred from the capital outlay fund to short-term CIP building for the repairs to the flagpole located at 93 Washington Street.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Seeing no objection, Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I further move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor McCarthy moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, we didn't get to see it today because we're virtual, but anyone who's driven by City Hall will recognize that the flagpole that flies off the front of City Hall is no longer there. It was a wooden flagpole which had outlived its useful life and broke during a wind event. The electrical department took it down and found, through the due diligence, found a gentleman who does historic flagpole reproductions. He's actually a gentleman that is actually going to retire this year. And he was very excited once he heard the history of the City Hall to be able to do this, because he was planning on retiring. So he is going to fabricate the wooden pole with all its hardware and actually come down and install it. And this is just I think we've already approved the money for this, but this is just allocating the money from the capital outlay fund to allow this to happen so that they can pay the vendor in order to get the flagpole repaired in a timely manner.
It's dissipating.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. On Councilor McCarthy's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Cohen,
Yes.
Counselor Dominguez,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor McLean,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Prosnowski,
Yes.
Counselor Riccardi,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Counselor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion for the appropriation and transfer of $3,375, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have the following four money matters: appropriating fund from Park and Rec receipts reserved account to specific Park and Rec accounts for costs associated with replenishing pro shop merchandise, for replacement of an ice machine, for costs associated with phone and internet charges, and for costs associated with placement of steel doors on the irrigation pump house.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for suspension of the rules.
Councilor McCarthy moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I further move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor McCarthy moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. I had a lengthy conversation with the Park and Rec Director as well as with the Finance Director. For those about these matters, some of them are pretty straightforward with regards to just repairs that need to be made. And for those councilors that don't understand, that the golf course works on a receipts reserved account, basically meaning they take money in, the money's held until the end of the year, and then we basically sweep the account in order to offset the tax revenues. But in this case, the money is there, but it's, and these were expenditures that weren't anticipated in the budget, but the money's there they're, rather than take the money out of the general fund, they decided to take it out of receipts reserved. I had a conversation with the finance director and with the park and rec director relative to the pro shop allotment. I'm not really sure why that they do not operate that on a revolving fund, similar to what goes on down at Winter Island. For the camp store, basically it has money to start the year, and money comes in and out, and during the year if they need to order more supplies or equipment, or in this case golf balls, tees, shirts, hats, whatever they need to order, they could, and run it based on a maximum amount, and then anything in excess of the initial allotment would then be swept at the end of the year. So we're going to look into that. But these expenditures need to be done in a timely manner in order to get ready for the upcoming season. And I know that I'm looking forward to trying to get out a few more times this year with my boys. And these are things that just need to get done in a timely manner. And they're all, the money's all allocated. The money is available and the receipts reserved. It's just a matter of us allowing them to transfer it out of receipts reserved in order to get these maintenance things done.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. On Councilor McCarthy's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Krasniewski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes, sorry.
and Councilor Marcelo.
Yes. On the motion, on the appropriation of $10,000, $2,525, $2,500, and $2,500 for various golf course expenditures, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have the following two donations. One, to accept the donation from Harbor Light Community Partners in the amount of $4,140 for the taxpayer scholarship account, and another donation from Kathleen Abarden, in the amount of $1,950 for a wooden historic bench for Park and Rec.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor McCarthy moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to thank Harbor Light Community Partners for their generous donation for the taxpayer scholarship account. It's a great donation for a great program, and I want to thank them. And I would actually make a motion that we send Harbor Light Community Partners the city seal for their donation. The second donation, I want to thank Kathleen Albertine for her donation for an historic wooden bench. These are typically, remembrance benches, and they're going for probably, I would have to go look, but this is probably the most expensive historic bench. And because of its location, it had to be a historic bench, and that's probably the largest dollar amount you'll see donated for a bench. I know they're getting more and more expensive, but I want to thank Kathleen and her family for the donation on behalf of the Park and Rec Department for an appropriate bench and then with a location that's been worked out. But it might move for adoption by roll call vote.
Any further discussion? Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to add to that the donation from Harbor Light was actually raised entirely by one person. It was raised by Cynthia Nina Soto, who did a race, a road race, a marathon, and raised the money entirely, and also works on the scholarship committee, which will then award the money. So this resident is really supporting the initiative from multiple directions. So just want to thank her for that. And if Councilor McCarthy will accept it, just make a friendly amendment that as we send over the city seal, that perhaps we direct it to her, or at least make sure she's named for her efforts.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor McCarthy's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Prosnowski,
Yes.
Council Riccardi,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Council Marcillo.
Yes. On the acceptance of two donations for $4,140 and $1,950, 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order for a home rule petition for an act authorizing the city of Salem to enact a condominium conversion ordinance for buildings containing 2 or more residential units.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Riccardi moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. I see that Amanda Giancola from the Planning Department is still with us. Thank you, Amanda. So if we have any questions, I'm sure she will be happy to assist. I will try to summarize briefly. So this is a home rule petition submitting to the state. In the backup documentation, there is additional information provided as well, including the history of the 1983 Massachusetts Legislative Acts for condo conversion law. There is a limitation on there, though, and we need to submit this petition to lower the number of units, as well as provide a few other guidelines to enact any future ordinance. So this, just to clear up if there's any confusion there, this is not a submission of an ordinance, but a submission so we can then, it's kind of setting us up so we can then write and create an ordinance that will not be in conflict with any rules. And before I muck it up anymore, I will open it to Amanda for any questions.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm looking forward to the discussion on this in committee, if that's what ends up with, which I assume this is where this is going. I think this is, I want to recognize the working group that worked on this in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Amanda Giancola did an excellent job in crafting this, and then the working group that included, I think, both the current Ward 2 City Councilor and the former Ward 2 City Councilor. I think this is something that, there's so few things that we have that we can within our control to address affordability. And this takes something that there's already a framework that exists for this, and this sort of localizes it for Salem, makes it so that we can enforce it here, hopefully enforce it here locally, and it's relevant to us locally. So thank you. And thank you to Amanda.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Madam President. This is really a terrific bill. Many of the ordinances that we pass relative to housing are for new developments. And we have a lot of people being displaced. They're priced out of Salem who currently live here. A lot of people who are in situations where the property they live on, the rents are being raised and they have very short time to pay the new rent or move out. And so my preference would be, because this is just a petition for the home rule petition, that we vote to adopt it tonight. Basically, the state law that exists is for 4 units or more. And most of the condo conversion in Salem is 2 and 3 unit buildings. And, at the Affordable Housing Trust Fund board meeting that I am grateful to serve with Councilor Watson Felt and Councilor Morcillo, we discussed about how most of the conversions are in that sector of 2 and 3 family. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that we should move to adopt this, because all we're doing is filing a petition for a home rule petition.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the motion from Councilor Riccardi was for adoption by roll call vote. Councilor Watson Felt.
Thank you, President Marcillo. In addition to agreeing with everything that was said prior to this moment, I have one question about the language that appears in the agenda today. I'm wondering if I'm misreading it or if it's just a small typo, that it says under section 1, notwithstanding the provisions of any general blah, 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 to the very last line, in the municipality to the condominium or cooperative form. I believe it should say of ownership, the forms of ownership, but I could be wrong. And I, just being a new counselor, I wanted to clarify that point, just in case, if we do vote to move it forward, I wanted to make sure we called it out in case it needed to be amended.
Counselor, would you like to move for a suspension of the rules so we can have Ms. Giancola address that?
I would like to move for suspension of the rules, President Marcelo. Thank you.
Seeing no objection. Amanda, can you answer that, please?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Counselor, for bringing that to our attention. Yes, it should say of, not on.
Yeah. Or ownership, because that's what it is now, right? Yeah, it's the forms of ownership. Thank you. I'm glad we caught that. And that was my only thing. Thanks.
And Amanda, did you want to say anything else about this?
Well, I will note for anyone listening, if you'd like to learn more, www.imaginesalem.org is a website with housing strategies, and there's a PowerPoint on there with a wealth of information about the background of this data on how we got to this. 78% of the buildings that have been converted since 2016 are 2 and 3 family units. And again, that's why we're proposing to lower that threshold. So that's the summary of it. And again, happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to Amanda. My question would be is, I have lots of questions, but I guess the biggest question would be is if we send this off to be approved by the Senate and the House, and they come back and they say that we can adopt provisions, or the provisions for the 4 units or above, which is currently in the legislation, can be extended down to 2 units. Would that if they approve that, would that automatically come back and be in effect? Or would that will then allow us to have the discussion about amending the ordinance? Because I have way too many questions to ask right now relative to that. If the question is just going to be whether or not the state approves us theoretically having a conversation around dropping it to 2, I'm all in favor of the conversation. But if we're just going to send this off tonight, and then it's going to come back, and then those same rules that are in effect for 4 units and above are now going to come back in 2 units and above, and then we're going to it's just a question of the timing of it, I guess, is my question, if you can answer that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So it allows for what happens is it allows the city council to adopt an ordinance. It does not automatically bring down the 4-unit requirements to 2 units. And right now, the city does not have a condo conversion ordinance. So the city has not adopted a local ordinance with the state protections. So the city could adopt an ordinance for 4 units and more with these tenant protections, but it has not done that. So those protections are not in place in Salem currently.
So if I may continue, Madam President. So I guess that would start a series of questions, but so I guess if we were unable to enact a condominium conversion ordinance relative to adopt the state laws with regards to 4 and above, why wouldn't we do that first before then we go back to the state to try to lower it? I mean, I know from what your comments were and from what I saw online that the majority of the condo conversions that we're seeing are in the 2 to 3 family, but I guess I'll let it play out. That's fine. I mean, I just wonder why wouldn't we try to adopt the state provision first before we want to jump to a stricter restriction where we haven't even tried the first one.
Ms. Giancola, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board had recommended moving forward with the home rule petition first so that we can move forward with 2 units or more, because that's where we're seeing the units being converted. We could move forward with a 4-unit, but we're not seeing that many units of 4 units and more being converted. And so what we want to do is take this time between now and when the state reviews this to do some enhanced outreach and ask for input. We're reaching out to tenants and buildings with 2 units and more, and landlords with buildings of 2 units or more, and given a couple options. Again, that's on imaginesalem.org. We have a presentation on there, and it shows the state requirement, Salem option 1, Salem option 2. And those aren't the only 2 options, but it's just ideas around, what should the tenant notification look like? What should the review process be? And so that's going to be continued to work on during this timeframe while the state reviews the home rule petition. So by the time that home rule petition is adopted, we can come to you with an ordinance that has been discussed by the community and has some vetting around it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watson-Felt, second comment.
Thank you, Madam President. To Councillor McCarthy, I would just add to what Amanda said in that I think that there's an urgency to also try and attempt to slow the conversion in our naturally occurring affordable housing that exists now and the current rental properties that we have. And so with your point about timing, I think that the request to get the petition out there to enable us to enact some ordinance down the line that is really responsive to Salem's particular needs, I think is the top priority in this instance. And so that's why, just as a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, that's how we came to that determination, that there's really a sense that there needs to be a stemming of the tide. And so this seemed like the most effective course of action to where we ultimately want to land, which is through a lot of additional research, as Ms. Chincola outlined, and also, an ordinance that could be highly responsive to our immediate needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Madam President. I concur with Councillor Cohen and Councillor Watson-Felt in terms of speaking to the urgency of this moment. It seems, from my understanding of what's proposed here, that it simply allows us to have the conversation and proceed with crafting an ordinance that makes sense to Salem if we adopt this evening. And I think it's just really important for me to put a human face on the conversation we're having. I know at least 3 people within the last 2 weeks who are facing housing crises, who are in this exact situation. They are in units which are about to be converted from rental to condominium. Their leases are not being renewed. And, frankly, I think, I would have liked to see something like this happen sooner in Salem. A lot of units have already been lost. And I think it makes a lot of sense to move this forward tonight and get this in front of the legislature as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councillor Riccardi's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councillor Cohen,
Yes.
Councillor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councillor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councillor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councillor McLean,
Yes.
Councillor Merkel,
Yes.
Councillor Krasinski,
Yes.
Councillor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councillor Varela,
Yes.
Councillor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
and Councillor Marcello.
Yes. On the motion for adoption of the home rule petition, we have 11 councillors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Communications from the mayor.
We have an order received after the deadline of Tuesday noon for $185,822 for costs associated with placing food floor tiles at Witchcraft Heights.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules to allow the matter to come before the council due to the late file rule section 28A.
Councilor McCarthy moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I further move that the matter be referred to the Committee on Administration and Finance due to the late file.
Councilor McCarthy moves for referral to the Committee on Administration and Finance. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor. The motion carries. Mayor's informational page, none. Motions, orders, and resolutions. Counselor Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Resolution, Dominican Republic Independence Days. Whereas the Dominican Flag Committee of Salem will celebrate the raising of the Dominican flag at Lafayette Park to celebrate the raising of the Dominican flag and mark Dominican Republic 178th anniversary of independence. And whereas the Dominican community has dedicated this celebration of independence to the Dominican Republic men and women who have distinguished themselves in different disciplines in the city of Salem. And whereas the Dominican community has established itself throughout the efforts of many Dominicans in business, sports, politics, education, and many other disciplines, and have exhibited their pride, passion, and love of family and religion, and commitment to hard work. And whereas the Dominican community enriches the city of Salem by promoting the rich Dominican culture throughout music, dances, and the arts. And whereas the city of Salem recognizes the supporting the Latino community will lead to greater continual equality for all residents and help strengthen our city. And whereas the Dominican flag raising will take place, obviously, this is was reading before we made the change, at Lafayette Park on today, February 24, 2022, at 5 p.m. in anticipation of the Dominican Republic Independence Day. And now, therefore, we, the Salem City's Councilor and Mayor Kimberly Driscoll, do hereby proclaim February 27, 2022 as Dominican Republic Independence Day and call upon our public officials, educators, librarians, and all Salem residents to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs here in Salem and beyond the border of our Commonwealth. And I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor Dominguez moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Unfortunately, the weather did not cooperate with us, and the Dominican Flag Committee have to make a quick move and advance the day of the celebration, where we have a small gathering at Lafayette Park with the mayor was present, Senator John Lovely and Representative Paul Tuckett and Councilor Marco and Councilor Cohen and the superintendent of school and many residents of the great city of Salem. So yes, in conclusion, we want to thank everyone, and we apologize that we had to make that move so quickly. Some of you might know was not able to be there, but next year we promise that we're going to have a great celebration where we all will celebrate the independence of the Dominican Republic. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm disappointed I didn't know that that the date was changed. It's fine. Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to say how proud I have been. I think I've been to all of them since I've lived in Salem, and to stand with Councilor Dominguez and all of our Dominican friends. Diversity in our community enriches all of us, and I think no other community does any better than the Dominican community in Salem. And I wish someday it will be on a warmer day, but it was a lot of fun. And thank you, Councilor Dominguez, for helping to put this together.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Dominguez's motion for adoption by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Prosnowski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Masillo.
Yes. On Councilor Dominguez's motion for adoption of a proclamation for Dominican Republic Independence Day, 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Varela.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem, February 24th, 2022, ordered that the Committee on Public Health, Safety, and Environment, co-posted with the Committee of a Whole, each to discuss and review the attached ordinance relative to amending Chapter 20, Fire Prevention and Protection, Sections 128 and 129, relative to the sale and use of solid fuel outdoor patio space heaters, fire pits, chimeneas, outdoor decorative heating appliances, and outdoor fireplaces within the city. I'd ask one of my fellow councilors to waive the reading, if possible.
Waive the reading.
Waive the reading.
Thank you. So I'll be quick about this and brief. So as most people,
excuse me, can you make a motion first?
yes, I would like to make a motion. It says a motion to move for adoption, but I would like to move for adoption for this to be referred to the Committee on Public Health, Safety, and Environment.
Thank you. Councilor Varela moves for adoption to send this to the Committee on Public Health, Safety, and the Environment. Councilor Varela.
Thank you, Madam President. So as all of you probably are aware, within Chapter 20, Sections 128, I'll start there. It basically states that any mercantile retail establishment in the city cannot sell fire pits or solid fuel. As most of you know, businesses like Home Depot have always been selling fire pits. And it seems like this ordinance has not been enforced by our city for quite some time. And yet again, we have a lot of surrounding cities that also sell fire pits and solid wood as well. So first, I would like to, see a change in this, be granted that the sale of fire pits be granted. But moreover, Section 129 is it's an outright ban of solid fuels and the use of portable devices such as chimeneas and outdoor fireplaces. The reason I would like to see this amended is because, as a lot of us know, a lot of our residents already have a fire pit. It's a tradition here in the city, and it doesn't seem like that's also been enforced. What the intention of this ordinance is to enforce safety. So right now, it's clearly written as of now, Section 129, that you cannot have a fire pit and solid fuel cannot be used. What this amendment is going to do is set up guidelines for safety concerning the use of fire pits. For example, you have to be 25 feet away from a structure or a fence line. You have to be 21 years of age or older and attendance at all times. You need to have a fire extinguisher or hose as well as all times. So there's certain guidelines, and after looking at other municipalities in the Commonwealth and talking to other fire prevention entities in the Commonwealth as well who have adopted an ordinance like this, they have not seen a concern with more residents adopting a fire pit or fires related to that. So I would like to take this ordinance that seems to be, undefined in how and what we can do as residents and put more of an emphasis on safety. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Varela's motion for adoption to send this ordinance to the Committee on Public Health, Safety, and the Environment. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The motion passes. Committee reports. Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council, February 24th, 2022, Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, to whom was referred the matter of granting certain licenses, has considered said matter and would recommend grant it to Secondhand Valuables to Do to Done, LLC.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own, on adoption of the recommendation under discussion. Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. We wish to done good luck in her business, and there was a glowing review provided by Councilor Cohen as well.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? We'll let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor. The motion carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee, Community and Community Development, composed of the community hall, met to discuss or have the presentation of the youth bill on the youth bill presentation, and we agreed to keep it in committee.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. We think that we had a great meeting. Everyone was very informative. I think that's a great program that will fit the needs of most of the family that are in need here in Salem. So we hear a great presentation from the director of the youth bill, Mr. Michael Hewlett, and I think everyone come out very impressive with this program. So I want to thank once again the director of the youth bill, and I want to thank everyone who was in attendance. And we just need to continue to follow through and make sure that we put it out there so people know and take advantage of this great program. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'd like to thank Councilor Dominguez for having Youth Build present to our Community and Economic Development Committee and also the committee on the whole. It was a great opportunity to learn about the important work that Youth Build is doing, empowering young adults through education, vocational training, and community service. The importance of the work that Youth Build is doing cannot be overstated, and it was great to have the opportunity to learn more about their work.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on acceptance of the recommendation, on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The motion carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem in City Council, February 24th, 2022. The Committee on Government Services co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of creating a land agreement to read at each meeting has considered said matter and would recommend the matter remain in committee.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion, Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Madam President. We had an excellent discussion on this topic. I want to thank Councilor Riccardi for bringing this forward, and thank Elizabeth Solomon from the Massachusetts Tribal Council for attending our meeting. It was, at least from my perspective, it was an enlightening conversation that we had with her. Some of the things that stood out was she mentioned there's been sort of a progression of thinking around these land acknowledgements, as this is something that we may not have seen at all not that long ago, but is becoming much more prevalent. And initially, she said there was a lot of excitement around this because, especially in the Northeast, there's Indigenous people can feel a little bit invisible. But she's seen there's different communities have dealt with this in different ways, and different organizations too. This is something that happens in museums and nonprofits, and even corporations have adopted some of these in some cases. And she mentioned that there's municipalities who have done this and organizations who have done this, where it's been sort of a check the box activity, where it's been let's just grab this sort of standard statement and we'll use this and we'll feel good about ourselves afterwards. And that municipality or organization had done nothing else to support Indigenous peoples, and she felt those were sort of hollow. But other organizations have done this very, very well. And she mentioned specifically Salem as a community that, among all Massachusetts communities, was one that she looked at as sort of a model for engaging with the Indigenous community. And she said, if other communities had come to me and discussed this, I'd be a little more skeptical than I am with Salem looking to do something like this, but we should still think about why we want to do this, what we hope to get out of it, and what we plan to do for the Indigenous communities. Alphonse Wright from the Salem Human Rights Coalition also attended, and he mentioned that what used to be No Place for Hate is now the Salem Human Rights Coalition. At one time was doing these acknowledgements and sort of put a pause on this for a little while until they can have a discussion around what sort of action they're taking on behalf of Indigenous communities. So there's definitely different lines of thinking around that. And then just one more thing that sort of stood out, and I think that Elizabeth had mentioned the use of the land. I felt like that really stuck with me, where she talked about people in our community would not talk about how we use land. We would talk about ourselves as being a part of the land. And I think it was the council president yourself who mentioned, this is something that we as a council deal with. We deal with the uses of land, who gets to use land in what ways, and who gets to live on what land. Maybe an interesting sort of place to start when we think about our land acknowledgements, but certainly a conversation that has a long ways to go. We want to make sure that we're doing this thoughtfully. So we recommend to keep this in committee, and we'll bring this up again and address it, and possibly create a working group to sort of craft a more individualized statement around this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Markle.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say I really appreciate the proposal for the land acknowledgement coming before the council. And as Councillor Hapworth had said, it was really a great, thoughtful conversation at the Government Services Committee. And it was really a great opportunity to have the guidance and perspective given by Elizabeth Solomon from, as he said, the Massachusetts Tribal Council, and Alphonse Wright from Salem Union Rights Coalition. It was already a learning experience for me personally, and I really look forward to that conversation continuing.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor, none opposed. The matter carries. Communications from city officials, none. Petitions.
We have a petition from Salem YMCA to hold a road race, the Which City 5K, and use the city streets on October 15th, 2022.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to be granted.
Council McCarthy moves that this be granted. Under discussion?
No discussion really. It's the YMCA. It's an annual event, and I wish them good luck. I know that they use it as one of their fundraisers to promote their programming.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion on Council McCarthy's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands, including my own. The matter carries. Further petitions.
A petition from BNS Fitness to hold a road race, the Wicked Half Marathon, and use the city streets on September 17th, 2022.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this matter be granted.
Council McCarthy moves that this be granted. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. Once again, this is an event that's been going on for a number of years now. And they seem to have a good handle on how to run the event. So I move for approval.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion on Council McCarthy's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The motion carries. Further petitions.
We have a petition from BNS Fitness to hold a road race, the Black Cat 10 and 20 miles, and use of city streets on April 3rd, 2022.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. It seems like all the road races are in Stoughton Ward 1, so maybe we should move some of these around a little bit when we're thinking about them. But, and then all that being said, with regard to this one, I move to be granted with a couple of provisions.
Council McCarthy moves that this be granted. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. Unfortunately, right now, anyone who's been down the Willows, this race starts in the Willows in the field. The field was used as temporary parking for last year while we were constructing the new parking area and redoing the tennis courts. That project hasn't been completed yet. It's slated to be completed in the spring. And I don't have a problem with the road race per se, but it may be an issue that I'm going to have to ask police traffic that they may need additional, either BNS will have to provide the additional people, or they'll have to hire additional traffic people in order to deal with this road race, just because of the early timing of this. The last thing I want to see is the inability to be able to park and having all those patrons of the road race park in the Willows neighborhood itself. We've limited the amount of parking on Fort Avenue due to the double wide bike lane, and the field itself is slated to be repaired in the spring, and I just don't know the timing of that. So this may be a logistical issue. I think it's something that they can work through with the Park and Rec Department and the Police Department, but I know that they want to advertise this and get it out there, but at the same time, I just want to make sure that all the bases are covered relative to the start, finish, and where the patrons of this road race are going to be able to park and gather in order to run this event. It's just right now, we took a big jump last year, the tail end of COVID, to redo the parking lot and the tennis courts, and part of that was in order to allow the field is just in disrepair right now, and it's slated to be fixed. So I'm a little leery of it, but I'm sure there's other ways in that space through Park and Rec that they can accommodate BNS, but there may be a couple provisions that BNS may have to adhere to that are above and beyond what they typically are anticipating for this road race.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So on Council McCarthy's motion that this be granted with provisions that, excuse me?
Thank you. Basically with the provisions that I'm going to have a conversation with Park and Rec and police traffic that they may be additional safeguards that BNS will have to adhere to in order to have the race on the date intended.
Okay, thank you. So the provision is that you will be meeting with the organizers and Parks and Rec and the police department related to traffic and parking issues. Okay, so on the motion to grant this provisionally, all those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor and none opposed. The motion carries. Petitions. Further petitions.
We have the following license applications for public guides, taxi cabs, and taxi operators.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these be granted.
Councilor Riccardi moves that these be granted. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no further discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The motion carries. Further petitions.
We have a license application for a secondhand value for Which City Consignment and for a C1 for Jose Mercado.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Riccardi moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The motion carries. Further petitions.
We have the following list of contract operator drain layer licenses.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these be granted.
Councilor Riccardi moves that these be granted. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no further discussion on the motion that this be granted, all those in favor? Let's see those hands. All those opposed? Let the record show that I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The motion carries. Further petitions.
We have 4 claims.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Riccardi moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. All those in favor? All those opposed, let the record show. I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The matter carries. Further petitions.
We have 3 drain layer bonds.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs and returned approved.
Councilor Riccardi moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs and returned approved. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor, including my own. The matter carries. Unfinished business.
With the second passage of an ordinance relative to municipal buildings, operations, and transportation.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Councilor Riccardi moves for adoption for second and final passage by roll call vote. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Krasniewski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Masillo.
Yeah. On the second and final passage for the Green Municipal Buildings Ordinance, etc. We have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Further unfinished business.
And the second passage of an ordinance providing auxiliary aids and services.
Councilor Riccardi.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
And I should have said under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no further discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Krasniewski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Masillo.
Yes. On the adoption of second and final passage of the auxiliary aids and services, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Further unfinished business.
The second passage of an ordinance amending traffic handicap park and Short Ave.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this is adopted for second passage by roll call vote.
Councilor Cohen moves for adoption for second and final passage by roll call vote. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing no discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Krasniewski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Masillo.
Yes. On the second and final passage of the traffic ordinance, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance amending traffic handicap park in Boston Street.
Councilor McCarthy, could you take this one, please?
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Councilor McCarthy moves for adoption for second and final passage by roll call vote. Seeing no discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Cohen,
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez,
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilor McLean,
Yes.
Councilor Merkel,
Yes.
Councilor Krasniewski,
Yes.
Councilor Riccardi,
Yes.
Councilor Varela,
Yes.
Councilor Watson Felt,
Yes.
and Councilor Masillo.
Yes. On the motion for second and final passage on a traffic ordinance, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance amending traffic handicap parking Congress Street.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
On Council McCarthy's motion for adoption for second and final passage by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Cohen,
Yes.
Counselor Dominguez,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor McLean,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Presnowski,
Yes.
Counselor Riccardi,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
and Counselor Masillo.
Yes. On the second and final passage of an ordinance, a traffic ordinance, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none on the negative. The motion carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance amending traffic handicap parking to repeal on Levitt Street.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption for second and passage by roll call vote.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
On Council McCarthy's motion for adoption for second and final passage by roll call vote, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Cohen,
Yes.
Counselor Dominguez,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor McLean,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor Presnowski,
Yes.
Counselor Riccardi,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
and Counselor Marcillo.
Yes. On the motion for adoption for second passage of a handicap parking space ordinance, we have 11 councilors voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion carries. Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Madam President. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to make a statement. Democracy, as we all know, is sometimes precarious, and although may not always be accessible to all, it's something that we should stand up and protect wherever we can throughout the world. When a ruthless dictator invades and occupies a democratic and sovereign nation, the country of Ukraine, we almost condemn it and be concerned with not only the unnecessary loss of life, but over 100,000 people have been displaced in less than 24 hours. Might does not make right, and I hope the city will stand with our Ukrainian neighbors. We have a church in Salem, and I think there will be an event sometime in the future, and hope we will all think about those that we can help immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Does anyone have anything else? Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adjournment.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show I saw 11 hands in favor. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Right.